The DC Extended Universe is kind of a thing, but also kind of not a thing anymore. Kind of unclear at this point, but a couple of years ago when it definitely was, a lot of people were angry with at least a few things in a couple of the movies. Because this is the internet, and people get angry about a lot of stuff here, and it's cool if you don't agree with that. I mean, feel free to leave an angry comment, but that might not be the best way to prove your point. Anyway, there were a lot of issues with those movies, for sure. But one thing that kept coming up online is how they had superheroes take lives. Batman slammed a man's face into the floor. That guy didn't survive. He fired guns and stuff. He definitely took some lives on the big screen, and people were like, no, he doesn't do that. Don't have him be doing that. A lot of people were upset that he did that. See, having heroes, especially mainstream superheroes, kill is a tricky thing for filmmakers. There's kind of this moral code in place where they don't do that kind of stuff. The bad guys do that kind of stuff. But in Marvel movies, they'll often have a villain that's such a big threat that the whole world or the whole universe is in danger. And that certainly seems like an appropriate time to use lethal force. And also, it is pretty satisfying to see a villain get his comeuppance, but it's a pretty rare thing in Marvel movies to have heroes actually, take out the villain. So here are some things that Marvel tends to do to get around having their heroes take out the villains, so they don't even have to deal with the morality of it, they don't have to deal with the criticism that DC did. They've got some tricks up their sleeve for that, and that's what we're gonna dive into. First of all, one thing they'll do once in a while is they'll send the villain to jail at the end of the movie. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Vulture ended up in jail. Abomination from The Incredible Hulk, he's in jail. Even Justin Hammer, the dancing villain from Iron Man 2, he's also in jail. So in this case, it's pretty straightforward. The villain gets defeated and the hero doesn't have to kill anyone. It's not the most dramatic way to end things, you know? So one thing that's a little more dramatic that Marvel does, and they've done this a lot, is to have the villain meet their end because of something they themselves did. Disney movies do this all the time, like the bad guy takes one last swing and falls from somewhere high up. I'm looking at you, Maleficent, and Beauty and the Beast, and Snow White, and Tangled, although I guess a lizard kinda did that one. Take Iron Man 2 for example. Big cool final fight between Whiplash and Iron Man. Very cool, very fun to watch. Then there's this explosion thing and Whiplash is lying there like, oh no, I'm not doing so hot, but you lose also because self-destruct mode. And then there's another big explosion and Whiplash goes out by self-destruction. So it's like, oh well, that's not Iron Man's fault, so it's all good. Also in Iron Man 1 and 3, Pepper Potts is technically the one who pulled the trigger on the villain. Another example is Black Panther. Killmonger was technically killed by T'Challa, but they became friends right before he died, and Killmonger himself decided to let himself go. He probably could have been saved by all that Wakandan tech, but he chose his own death, so Black Panther's like, you know what? I respect your wishes. Let's go check out the sun. That'll be nice. We're friends. So Marvel gets to have these super big final battle scenes, and the villain does get taken out, and it's exciting, and the hero doesn't have to take full responsibility for the deadly end. In fact, the hero even comes across even more heroic sometimes because they'll try to warn the villain or even try to save them before they die. It's not their fault, and they tried to save the bad guy. Man, that's super heroic. Holy moly. Hela in Thor Ragnarok is another example. Thor ended up being able to get her taken out by Surtur. Although, yeah, it's definitely debatable of whether or not she actually is dead. She might pop up again. And that actually brings me to another strategy that Marvel really likes when it comes to villains. Let's call it dead but not really dead. This happens all the time in Marvel movies. Part of the reason is that when they explicitly kill off villains, it makes it a little tricky to bring them back if people end up liking them. Like Loki, he kind of died at the end of the first Thor movie, but then nope, not really, he's back forever and always. He pops up just all the time. He's getting his own spin-off show. All of that's possible because he had an ambiguous space death. Oh, he's gone. He went off into space. Is he dead? Probably, because the movie's over. But then in another movie, he's back because space is a mystery. Red Skull had one of those ambiguous space deaths too in the first Captain America. Hey, where'd he go? He's off into space. I guess he's probably dead. But nope, he popped up in Infinity War and Endgame. He's like, what's up guys? I got space cursed, so this is my new gig. I'm a tour guide on Vormir. Welcome. Darren Cross, he got shrunk down into the quantum realm or something at the end of Ant-Man. Well, guess what? The heroes go on adventures there now all the time, so he's probably out there too. Although I'm not sure Marvel would want to bring him back or anything, saying he's not the most memorable villain, but he's around if they want him to, you know, cameo in an episode of a Marvel TV show or something. Mysterio is actually a great example of a combo of those last 2 points. In Spider-Man Far From Home, they couldn't exactly have Spider-Man rip off Mysterio's head or something. That would have been, you know, excessive. So he was taken out by his own tech, hoisted by his own petard, as nobody says anymore. And even at that, he's a master of illusions, and a whole lot of fans are convinced that he's actually still alive. Like, it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world if Jake Gyllenhaal popped up in the next Spider-Man movie. We'd be like, right, because illusions. Now, taking things in another direction enemy-wise, there's something else that Marvel loves to plop in their movies, especially the big team-up Avengers movies. Disposable CGI armies. Oh man, they love those things. They love them so very much. They let the heroes kill people and not have to deal with the morality of it. Because here's the thing, people are paying good money to watch these superheroes run around and use their superpowers. That's part of why we buy the ticket. We want to see that stuff. But if those superheroes used their full powers on like human henchmen, it would just be a massacre. The Amazon show The Boys gives a good look at what that might look like. Superheroes actually using their full powers on humans, and let's just say there's a reason that show is rated 18+. Morally speaking and ratings wise, that's not really something that Marvel can do. So what do? Disposable CGI armies. They love these things. The Chitauri from the Avengers, they all look the same. Oh, what are they like? They are angry and yelly. And that is all. There are also those big weird Chitauri space things that look like angry fish. That's for the big kills when they want to show off some really big powers. Those Venom Goro things from the last 2 Avengers movies, those are straight up space monsters. You can kill those without feeling a thing. Go ahead, kill one, it'll be cool. But the reasoning behind these things is also the main problem with them. Because they're in the movie by design just so the characters can show off some cool powers, there is zero emotion behind any of the kills. I mean, there's some emotion from time to time, but it always comes from the fact that one character swoops in to save another one just in the nick of time. There's absolutely no consideration to the trauma of taking a life because there can't be. That's not what this movie's about. This is about fun. If they gave even a sliver of humanizing qualities to their faceless CGI soldiers, it would be a completely different kind of scene. They literally cannot show emotion or the whole thing is ruined and our heroes look less sympathetic. Rick and Morty actually did a great job of poking fun at this in the show's pilot. When Rick wants Morty to shoot some bug aliens, he says,
"They're just robots, Morty! It's okay to shoot them, they're robots!"
But then after he shoots the bug, another bug is like, "Oh my god, call his wife and children, he's bleeding out." That tiny little bit of characterization for the disposable enemy made it messed up that Morty had just taken a life. Now, okay, on a whole other note of the morality of superheroes killing in Marvel movies, Avengers Endgame pretty much made the whole concept of death nebulous in the MCU. That's, at least in my opinion. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. There are already some angry people in there, so you'll blend right in. But towards the beginning of the movie, right, Thor chops Thanos' head off. And that was a pretty big shocker because this villain had gotten a whole lot of characterization and stuff. And also, the movie had just started. But then they did something that I think takes the whole dead but not really dead point I made earlier and turns it up to 11 by introducing time travel. They've now found a way to have their cake and eat it too, by eating it and then traveling back to the past to have it. They gave us the shocking moment of a character chopping a bad guy's head off, and then that bad guy was still the bad guy of the movie. I mean, characters that had actually died popped up in this movie. Crossbones and all the S.H.I.E.L.D. baddies, Loki was back once again, all of Thanos' main henchmen dudes that died in Infinity War. By introducing time travel and timelines and whatnot, what they've basically done is turned that no one's ever really gone line from The Rise of Skywalker into a plot device. Let's say that Guy Pearce suddenly becomes like the biggest celebrity in the world for some reason. Like he's the most in-demand guy in Hollywood. And the people at Marvel are like, "Ah, well dang, Aldrich Killian is dead. Pepper Potts shot him in the chest so Tony didn't have to be the one to do it." Well, they completely have the ability to bring them back if they want to. Hey, we have to travel back in time and deal with him for some reason. I'm not saying I think they'll do that because I'd like to believe that they're fully aware that opening up that can of worms will kind of cheapen cheapen their storytelling moving forward, but the point is, that can of worms is already slightly open. Literally, their most popular movie has a bunch of dead characters coming back and being antagonists again. All that to say that although it does happen from time to time, Marvel has been very good and slightly sneaky about not having their heroes straight up murder people, you know? The whole backlash that the DCEU saw with Zack Snyder's decisions to make Batman and Superman kill, Marvel hasn't had to deal with that. Instead, they had to deal with fans going like, hey, what if Ant-Man goes in Thanos' butt? What if that happens? Which one of those two is better? I mean, who's to say? But I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section on the morality of heroes taking lives on the big screen. Is there anything they do in regards to that in the comics that you think they should translate to the big screen? Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, please do consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. As always, check back soon for a new one. Bye bye.